This season, we're going to see some really new exciting young players. Players that we have a lot of expectations for. Now, this ultimately can be a good thing, but it can turn bad really quickly. To me, the bad part about expectations is that they get very unrealistic. I feel like one of the biggest problems in the NBA today is the fact that we never let our young players grow. We'll literally call a player a bust after about 30 games, not even realizing that in college they play around 30 games, so this is all new to them. So with that being said, in this video, I wanted to look at some careers that started out a little bit rocky, but gradually turned into something that we can respect and actually appreciate. But before we get into all that, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you're new. It's free. Come on, bro. It's free. I ain't asking you to buy me a car. Just hit a subscribe button. Turn on notifications, do all that great stuff. And without further ado, let's get into this banger, man. Let's get it. Now, the first player on this list, Kyle Lowry. As we all know, Kyle Lowry just won his first NBA championship, and I think out of everyone on that team, he had one of the more unique stories. I was one of those players that called Kyle Lowry the most overrated player in the NBA. I never thought he was a championship player. I never thought he was in the best shape. I didn't think he was mentally tough, especially after he had to decompress during the Cavaliers playoff game. I didn't have the most respect for Kyle Lowry. But let's kind of bring it back to the beginning of his career. He was drafted by the Grizzlies in 2006, and he didn't really pop from the start. He got traded twice in his first 7 seasons, and he kind of built a reputation of a guy that didn't really play well with others. I mean, he even admitted him and authorities, they just didn't get along at first. But when he got traded out of the country to Toronto, he ultimately launched his career. He made 5 consecutive All-Star teams, made the playoffs almost every single year, and he ultimately won an NBA championship, so we can't hate on that. Like him or not, and he's definitely not one of my favorite players, as a dude that started out kind of slow, he's made the most out of his career, and he has a case for a Hall of Famer, so gotta give him that. Now next on this list, Khris Middleton. Khris Middleton just got a contract worth $178 million. $178 million, and he's a second-round pick. Whether you think he's overpaid or not, he really earned this money because his journey wasn't the easiest. Khris wasn't one of these superstar talents that just went to college for 1 year and just automatically got a high first-round pick. He wasn't one of those guys. He had to grind it out. He actually stayed in college for 3 long seasons, and in his 3rd year, he tore his meniscus in his knee, so that was an obvious hurdle. Many scouters question if he can ever be that same player that he was in his freshman and sophomore years, so he drastically dropped to the 2nd round, and it just wasn't a good look. Basically, he started his career sitting on the bench for the Pistons, where he really didn't get an opportunity, and eventually he got traded to Milwaukee. Finally, in Milwaukee, when he got the shine and the opportunity that he needed, you can see the immediate change when he got the chance. I've always believed that in sports, situations are everything. Tim Duncan might not be viewed as the greatest power forward ever if he went to Minnesota and Kevin Garnett went to San Antonio. I mean, situations literally make or break your career. And speaking of that, my prime example is my next player, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was once being called a bust after about 30 games in the NBA. About 30 games.
I think the Sacramento Kings just might have made the worst trade in NBA history. And in return, the Sacramento Kings, a Buddy Hield, and I'm on record with this one, he stayed all 4 years at a school that I love and watch, University of Oklahoma. Stayed all 4 years, which is a bad sign, which is why I said he's being overrated. He went 6th overall to New Orleans and has been nothing but a disappointment this year.
Until the deal went down. Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, Buddy Hield, and a protected 2017 first round and 2nd round pick. Are you kidding? I mean, a heist.
Now, mind you, to put it into context, at Oklahoma, he went on one of the most magical college runs ever, averaging about 25 points on unbelievable shooting splits. So I understand the hype, but expectations are just ridiculous. I mean, it's almost like if Buddy Hield and Anthony Davis weren't Shaq and Kobe immediately, it just was a total failure, and that's just not how the NBA works. So anyways, once it didn't pop immediately, he got traded for that blockbuster trade with DeMarcus Cousins in 2017, and you can see the immediate difference when he went to Sacramento. In that same rookie season, he went from averaging about 8 points with New Orleans to averaging about 15 points with Sacramento. So sometimes when you get traded and you kind of get forgotten about and your hype dies down, that can ultimately be the best thing for your career because you grind in silence and you can really build your career instead of having everybody try to build it for you. And now for Buddy Hield, he's one of the best shooters in the NBA and he's a key player on an up-and-coming Kings team with a very promising roster. So I'm happy for Buddy Hield. He didn't just fall off the map. Now next on this list, and this one may surprise a few people, Kimble Walker. You may be scratching your head with this one because if you look at Kimble's rookie season, he averaged 12 points, and for his next 3 years, he averaged 17. So what's the bad part? Even though he had those averages, if you look at his shooting splits and how effective he really was, you can see he's made a major improvement. For his first 4 seasons, he was very inefficient, shooting below 40% for 3 out of the first 4 years. But now you can kind of see that development and you can see he's worked on his shot selections, his 3-pointers, his free throws, and he's a much more mature player now. Thankfully for him, he's finally out of Charlotte and he's with Boston with a coach that's going to put him in a system where all point guards prosper. I feel like now with a solid system and a solid foundation, you're going to see the best of Kimble Walker, so I'm happy for that. Now next on this list, and this one may surprise you, but JaVale McGee. I'm not going to talk too much on this one. I'm going to just let you watch this real quick.
Watch JaVale McGee this whole play.
Oh my God.
Watch this. And I asked the question, where the hell are you going?
You're an idiot.
Where the hell are you going?
You're serious that he run back on defense when you still have the ball?
What are you doing? You're not back in the play. Hustle back.
I mean, for his first 6 or 7 years, that was pretty much his career. If you type in JaVale McGee on YouTube, the first thing that comes up in the suggestions is Shaqtin' the Fool. When you thought about players that sucked or that were like a dunce and they were just clumsy and all that stuff, that was who you thought about JaVale McGee. That's just who he was. But now, although he's still not an all-star, a superstar, whatever, he's definitely a valuable player and a 2-time NBA champion where he had some impact. And last year, you can see he definitely improved. He averaged 12 points and about 7 boards in 22 minutes, so he's significant to that team now. He is definitely one of those players where I think his situation makes or breaks him. You can't put a silly, immature player with a bad organization around a bunch of silly, immature players because you're going to get the worst out of them. So for JaVale McGee and how his career was going down that path and how he completely changed and maximized what was left of his career, you can't do nothing but commend JaVale McGee. I never thought I would have his ass on the list, but you can't do nothing but commend him. And last on this list, my personal favorite player, DAngelo Russell.
This is a grown man's league. Tell him, Devin.
That's right. Nothing comes easy anymore.
Anything else I should know, D'Angelo?
Got a phone? Trust me.
Look, man, we all know the Lakers left this dude to dry. Like, they did not care about him. Magic Johnson traded him and basically kicked him in the ass on the way out. Like, as soon as Magic thought something better came up, Lonzo was from the LA area. He had way more hype. He went to UCLA. He could put way more asses in the seats. Like, as soon as he thought something better came up, he basically kicked D'Angelo to the curb and kicked him on the way out. Pretty much Magic was over here saying that he wasn't really a leader, he wasn't really a Laker, like just making him look bad, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. Now, we all know how his career started with the whole Nick Young thing and, you know, the whole scandal, whatever. And as a young player that hasn't really proven anything, it's hard to shake that label off because you don't really know him as anything else but a snitch. You don't know him as a basketball player, really. But after he got traded to Brooklyn, you can tell he got rejuvenated, he changed his diet, his body, he got tattoos and all this stuff, and now he turned into a complete dog and led that team to the playoffs. I mean, y'all like him and appreciate him so much. I even asked y'all in a poll on YouTube, who would y'all rather have, Devin Booker or D'Angelo Russell, and all y'all pretty much said D'Lo. Even on Instagram, y'all all mainly said D'Angelo Russell, so you can see he's slowly changing the outlook of his career. You guys all know I had to add him on this list. He's my favorite player, and to me, out of everybody on this list, he probably had the most impressive turnaround because his career easily could have just faded away after that whole scandal, so I'm happy for D'Lo. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys leave a like. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. We're trying to hit 200K before the end of the year. Do all that great stuff, and until next time, guys, as always, stay tuned.